Step on Marcus J, live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Gonna recalibrate the show because we've been having some issues, technical issues here with the live feed, and I'm pretty sure we just got it back up. The folks on Facebook Live, you guys have probably been fine the whole time. Neek just gave me the look like, I can't believe you just cut me off, and I apologize for that. But for those folks who are in the room, we're working off these cordless mics, so grab a cordless mic. We're working off of those. So we're working off the cordless mics, and I just confirmed that we're back up. So anyway, we're going to recalibrate the show. We've been talking to the folks on Facebook Live for about the last 20 minutes or so. We've been talking about Bill Cosby, and we've been talking about the hung jury, and it's been some colorful stuff said. And the folks on Facebook Live, you guys have been hearing it. For the folks that are on the TuneIn as well as on www.legacyinternetradio.com. Unfortunately, you guys missed most of that, but we'll figure out a way to kind of get some of those comments back in. Let me just get some stuff in from Facebook Live. Anyway, the phone lines are going to be open here. Well, actually, they're open now, so if you want to call in, the number is 804-402-2893. 804-402-2893 is the number to dial if you want to be a part of tonight's discussion. And again, thank you for rocking with us as we work through some of these technical difficulties. If you are here in the Richmond, Virginia area, you already know what it is. But let's see. Cousin Terry says that she doesn't think that he's innocent. She thinks that he took advantage of the times, just as the women who kept going back. Yeah. She says that she believes there was mutual consent. Maybe not all of them, but most of them, especially because they went back. Cosby sees no problems in his actions because there was a theme of the times. If it was a fact known as Poor Bill back in the day, then the women knew what they were walking into. Let's see. Coach Ship says, I'm not denying the fact. I'm pissed Bill did what he did, but to come 40 years later, that's crazy part. Just like a child, how do you punish him for any of it? And I think that's pretty much it for those comments. Let me just kind of jump in and say my piece of this, and then we'll kind of go back around the room and see if we can reestablish some of the stuff that we lost. But I'm one of those folks. I have a hard time accepting that it took 40 years to say something. That's tough for me to overcome. It's also tough for me to overcome the fact that many of them went back and back and back. It's tough for me to overcome the fact that many of them were looking to get on the Cosby Show and other things that he was doing, which is kind of a barter thing. Now, I feel as someone who is, I guess, somewhat sensitive to women's rights and women's issues, that feels a bit odd because I also know that a lot of women have these fears and they don't say anything. Almost kind of like a Stockholm Syndrome type of deal. But here's the reality. The reality is there were like 30 or 40 of these women, and only 2 of them were allowed to speak in the court because the judge found the rest of them not credible. And they also had the same lawyers, Gloria Allred. When you go and you read some of those statements, they seem different, but the ones who had Gloria Allred as their attorney had very similar statements. So there's got to be something to that that's odd. And quite frankly, like the O.J. Simpson case, the prosecution just frankly didn't prove their case. So we can get into our feelings about Bill Cosby, and we can feel some kind of way about him. I think a lot of times we as black people get in our feelings whenever an elder, it's usually an elder, chastise us. There's folks that was mad at Barack Obama for saying the things that he said, but a lot of times that stuff comes from a place where they keep it at 100 and it's some real. You know what I mean? Yeah, you do need to act right. And yeah, you need to conduct yourself a certain kind of way. And the folks who were doing what they need to be doing, most of us, because I didn't have a problem with the stuff that Bill Cosby was saying, nor did I have a problem with the stuff that Barack Obama was saying. But you had a lot of folks who did. I'm not casting aspersions on anybody individually. But I say that's some mirror check time. Because if you got an issue with somebody older that's saying the younger generation needs to act right, then there's something that's to that. And that's just the way I look at that. Thoughts from the crew. Big Bro, you got something on that?
Well, I've been sitting here. I'm getting looked at. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Here. I'm getting looked at with the stank eye by Q Boogie, because I'm never going to sit here and condone what Bill did. He did it. All right. Is he going to get punished for it? No. You want to know why? Because he had them white folk in his pocket too, or them white folk was in his pocket, or whichever way you want to do it. Well, no, OJ was a totally different story. They didn't like his dumb ass because he got arrogant. No. I mean, it's... But, I mean, that Marcus J made some good points, like I was trying to say, Q. Come on, SY, what's up? Come on, Nick. If you know that is wrong, why you keep going? 40 years? Flip it up. Push it up.
I did.
Push it.
A lot. But just like Marcus said, a lot of those women back then did not have the opportunity, like how we would have now, be able to be like, hey, sexual harassment. Hey, these things. Like, there was a legitimate fear of you losing your livelihood, not just your job, but your livelihood. Oh, you coming to Bill Cosby? We're going to take everything from you. That's a reality. It still happens to this day. Like, you can see it's more open now. But even back then, me being able to feed my children, me being able to take care of my household, me being able to do all these things.
I need another violin.
You can violin. You can violin it all up until you get the Phil harmonica, my dude. But that still don't change the fact of what it is. So it's like,
yo, what it is 40 years later. Quit playing. 40 years.
If somebody assaulted
40
your daughter,
women.
and 40
Yo,
years
if somebody
later,
assaulted my daughter, then they would have been dead and done. Why was they people that
40
dead?
years
Quit playing.
later, they're on trial. You wouldn't be glad?
No, it's not no trial.
yeah, that's a trial.
Wow.
No, it's not no trial.
He's saying he's going to be on trial.
Oh, you talking about that? I thought you started talking about Bill. Oh, no,
You don't want to be on trial.
But it should. But my thing is, why should it matter when we have to make it personal? Why should it matter then? Well, I say, oh, if it was your daughter, if it was your niece, if it was whatever. If she was in the same predicament,
right?
Why does it matter when it becomes personal? But if it's a woman that's out here trying to do the very same thing that your mother and niece, daughter is trying to do, all of a sudden now it's like, well, she should have just known better. She should have. Why does it matter?
He said to them?
Exactly.
Oh, you're gonna be my baby. Whatever. Please. Who knows?
Well, I never sit there and said that if they were raped, that they shouldn't say anything. That's not what I said. What I'm saying is, the law is the law for a reason. And you can take it the way you want to, but if you want to be in the confines of the law, a lot of those cases were tossed. Why? Because of the statute of limitations. You have a certain amount of time that you want to sit there, but now you want to pick back at the fact that, and like I said, didn't say he was right, didn't say it was cool. We all know that it was a known practice. He was called what? And to your credit, you called him what? What was he?
It's not my credit. This is what he was called.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You brought that to the forefront for me to understand.
He was called Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby. So, everybody know that this was Bill.
But that's the thing. Like, a lot of people, what I'm saying, everybody knows now. Back then, a lot of the only people that
everybody knew
then. No, they didn't.
Yeah, no, I don't think
you can sit there and say, yo, they did.
I don't think so.
If he got the nickname for a reason, and everybody that was around him in his circle.
Say that all those girls would know that.
But if I'm working with you and I'm your personal assistant, I know your dark secrets.
But also, if you're trying to get at me, you're not gonna make me be around your dark secrets,
right?
So it's like if you're gonna, in some sort of way, if you trying to get me. Why would you send me out to get your Quaaludes?
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
But then, why would you even agree to do so?
Well, because
a lot of them didn't. He didn't get his Quaaludes. Like, he didn't send him to sit down to go get his Quaaludes.
How you know? You don't know what he sent out.
He said it in the court document.
That don't mean nothing. He can say a lot of things. Lying is lying. If he already lied about one thing, if he's already lied about one thing, what makes you believe that just because he said that in the court document, that's not a lie too? You can't, don't even sit here and look at me like you don't know what I'm saying, Q.
Yeah, because none
if
of us
he said it in the court documents, and you've already established the fact that if these folks didn't do what he told them, they were in the subjection of losing their livelihood. What makes you think that they didn't do what he was told, what they were told at the time?
I guess I'm.
You're giving them the benefit on one.
No. See, look at you. Party foul.
No, nothing in there.
See, you got to pick it up. What do you mean there's nothing in there?
There's a whole lot. I didn't know.
A whole bunch of
nothing in
seeds.
there.
That's the problem.
No, we ain't getting on Bill. We ain't getting on Bill.
Bill is not. Bill is gonna go through the exact same ringer for the most part that
Well,
OJ
when the
went
next
through.
one comes, when the next trial comes, I hope they ram it to his ass.
I really do,
Good.
because he deserves
That is
it.
what I hope.
He deserves
Yep.
it.
He could say bye-bye behind bars, but they'll probably give him a nice
Right.
little cell.
Oh, absolutely.
But
No,
he
he
can
he
say
gonna get like
bye-bye.
He gonna get a nice little home,
Yep.
home set up, and because already now he's like, oh, I'm going blind, and I ran into a wall, and I did this.
Mm-hmm. You ran into a wall, all right, sucker.
All of a sudden, you get okay, cool.
Yeah, I hope they
and
lock his
and
ass
technically, not even technically, I do not agree with you coming at the younger generation if you've gone out of your way to not even understand the younger generation. I don't agree, because a lot of the people that you came at, you went to high schools and you went to other places and it was like, y'all ain't doing nothing for you. You just went in and just started like coming at people that you don't know. And you know, contrary to popular belief, we as black people are not monolithic. We all are different in way, shape, or form. So just because you automatically assume that if you don't look like me with your Coogee sweater and all this stuff, you must be hood, you must be ratchet, you must be this, pull your pants up, do this, do that. And it was like, Bill, we came over here to talk to you about how to help our children. All you did was just
You
come
just
in and
don't
do-
like Bill, dude. You just don't like him.
No, honestly, Bill Cosby was my favorite comedian growing up until this happened. Wrong is wrong.
See, you should have went with Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor ain't too shiny, ain't too
Red Fox.
messed
All
up
of
in
them
the
was
light
shady.
either. Absolutely.
Everybody was shady. Everybody was in the same group that Bill Cosby was in. Bill Cosby just was stupid enough that somebody came back and told on him later. I mean, you can't do that Richard Pryor because it'll be posthumous. He dead and gone.
Ain't no ass stuff on Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. Take this opportunity to introduce another participant just stepped in on the show with us. Our sister from Joy and Body Radio, Ashley Joy, is up in this joint. What's up, Ash?
Hi, how you guys doing?
Yeah, good.
I'm so glad to be here.
We're doing good. We got a full house. It's good to see everybody working through some of these technical difficulties, but it's all good. We gonna power through it. That's how we do it. Ain't no hashtag Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy in that radio, 804-402-2893. Our brother Hakeem says some of you males are wild, and when someone drug and rape y'all, let's see how many years pass before y'all come out and tell the story. 100% agree with you on that one. You know, because the reality is, it's easy, you know, to play Monday morning quarterback on a lot of these cases. Having never been a woman, I can't imagine what it must be like to be one, to be put in a position where someone that has the power that Bill Cosby had is telling you this is what is going down, this is the way it's going to be. You know, I got some issues with some of the behavior to some of these women. I've been clear about that. You know, that it's hard for me to overcome that it took 40 years. It's hard for me to overcome, you know, the fact that you felt violated, but you still was hanging out with him. Like I have, you know, I mean, he touched you and he did all of these crazy things to you. Like I'm having some issues with that, but I'm thoroughly convinced that Bill Cosby did something to these women. Like, I'm thoroughly convinced. And to chalk it up to that's just the way it went down in them days, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with people thinking that's okay because that's just the way they got down back in them days. So, but that's something else. 804-402-2893 is the number to dial. If you want to be a part of tonight's discussion, we are here. We'll be here throughout the balance of the show. 804-402-2893. I don't know what y'all are doing back here, but y'all.
He's making a mess. Now he's making a big.
Over here trying to make a point, but still messy.
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, you know, we're gonna move on to some other stuff. One of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about, this one kind of really upset me. Q, I want you to talk about the Philando Castille thing in Minnesota. We know that Philando Castille was the motorist that was killed by the police officer on the Facebook Live. The police officer involved in that case was found to be not guilty a couple of days ago. And, of course, that verdict came down on Friday. A lot of people have some issues with that, and let's talk about it. Before we do get into that conversation, let me get another another comment in. Our brother Ivan says that Virginia's own Darren Sharper failed to pay all the women, and he got convicted. Al Gore in 2006 paid his accuser. Ben Roethlisberger paid his off. But at the end of the day, Trump admitted sexual assault, and there's no charges. He got awarded. At least we know Cosby can run for president now. Okay.
Wow.
Wow, you went there, huh, Ivan? All right, so we just switched gears to Philando Castille. What's your thoughts on this one, Q Boogie?
This one, not to say that the others didn't, but this one hurt.
You on? Go ahead. I think you just flipped it off.
Am I on there?
There you go.
Okay. This one hit home. You still talk trash, but you still got stuff on your shirt. This one hit home for me because this was my foray into activism, active activism. My first march, I conducted my first march in protest from Philando Castille because I woke up to the news and immediately started crying because I have a very similar setup and family with my boyfriend who thinks of my daughter as his child. And I can't tell you how many times that we've been driving around, her in the back seat, me driving or him driving. And it hurt because I can't say I wasn't surprised. They kept blaming the THC in his system as if they had anything to do with it. Oh, well, he had THC in his system, which caused him to fail to be able to do what the officer told him to do. He complied. They have rolling evidence of him complying, and you still found a way to murder him twice. And what hurts the most is that you can't even look at it as, oh, this is a black and white issue, because the officer that murdered him is also a person of color. And the anti-blackness on that side, the failure of accountability all across the board. His mother on Facebook Live and in front of the courthouse screaming, crying that the city of Minnesota killed her son. And nobody did anything about it. And them trying so hard, even though they had it, he was the perfect. We talked about respectability in the segment before. He was the perfect specimen of respectability. They tell you to pull your pants up. Watch how you talk to people. Follow directions. Be nice. Be courteous. Talk to people. Look people in the eye. Say yes, sir. No, sir. He was the perfect specimen. He had a right to carry, and you still murdered him. None of us, regardless of what you do, regardless of there is no argument. Just pull your pants up and the police won't bother you anymore. That argument is now null and void. You cannot say that anymore. You can no longer say if you just talk to someone correctly, they'll leave you alone. You just comply, they'll leave you alone. You cannot say it anymore. And it's pissing me off that there are people that are still trying to, even though he's been dead a year, that are still trying to hang him up. That's what pisses me off. And it hits home because that's my family. I marched in the streets with other people that came to the march weeping, crying. We don't know what else to do. We're terrified. Little black boys and my necks holding up signs. I witnessed that. This isn't my first march, but it's the first march that I ever conducted on my own. And to watch people, the same people that I marched with a year ago, fall to pieces again, all over again on Facebook.
That's tough. This was the one, for me, similar to you. We saw Eric Garner. I'm not a big guy selling cigarettes. You know what I mean? Arguing with the police. That wasn't me. You saw Freddie Gray. And you can say whatever you want about whatever went on with him, but I couldn't relate to his story other than me viewing another black man being killed at the hands of the police. But when it was Philando Castille, I carry a pistol. I don't tell everybody that, but I guess I just did. You know what I'm saying? And, I could be in the car, with my child, and so when you see that video and the account of what happened, I don't know that the police tried to dispute the fact that he was a legal weapon carrier. There was no disputing that. And my question is, what person do you know who's legally carrying a weapon and tells you I'm legally carrying a weapon is a threat at that moment? Usually the threat is somebody that's trying to hide the fact that they're carrying a weapon and they want to do something to you. Like he said, I have a license to carry a weapon and I have it with me, and I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. Yeah. And my next question is, at what point does I feared for my life become bullshit? Like, do we always have to say, oh, well, they fear for their life, so I guess they're not guilty? Like, at some point, when you fear for your life, should not my life matter enough for you to have some responsibility for misplaced fear? When there's too often cases of people who are found to not be a threat, but we find out that they're not a threat posthumously.
You stopped this man because he had a wide set nose. That's why you stopped him. Well, he reminded you of somebody that you thought you saw that was a robbery suspect, and you stopped him because he had a wide set nose, and he died because he had a wide set nose.
Big bro, jump in here.
No, I'm gonna go ahead and let you keep on going with that one because my objectivity on that is twofold. You know how I feel about the case itself, and that I understand that, but sometimes, and it pains me sometimes to say that, but you ask the question, when does I fear for my life becomes bullshit, pretty much. And to say that is unfair because the minute you do that is the minute you're left in those streets dead too. My whole thing when I did law enforcement was to make it home in the morning. And I can tell you that if I felt threatened by that situation, even with all of the training that I had, it was to make sure that I made it home. And you can sit there, people who don't do it, and I'm not condoning it, but what I have to put it out there, people who don't do it for the good ones who are there, there's never a chance when your life is not in danger when you're in those situations. Never. Ever.
I'm going to play with the elephant that's in the room and talk about how this happens disproportionately to people that look like you and people that look like me.
Agreed.
And so when I say fear for your life being an excuse, quite frankly, in many of these cases, because your weapon oftentimes is the color of your skin. Now, there is some culpability that we as a community have when you look at Chicago and see that they killing each other up there like it's the Wild Wild West. When you turn on the national news, that's all you see. I'm not blaming us any more than I'm blaming them, but the reality is the images that the national public has of us oftentimes is because of our own bad behavior. That's one thing. But the other side of that is whatever this lady was in Nebraska or Oklahoma, wherever she was, she got let off. You know, the only reason why the cop in South Carolina, I believe, is going to probably die in jail because they got him on video shooting a guy running from him in the back. But had we not had that video, I fear for my life would have been okay there too. And it's upsetting.
South Carolina, that was a whole different.
It was a whole different thing. It was a whole different thing. But
you got to know who the governor is.
But the reason why, well, Nikki Haley is a moderate Republican, and she would have been an ally because she was during.
You really don't know Nikki Haley.
Okay. Killers got off and.
So jump in here, Ash.
Maryland is a very democratic state, so irregardless of that, what I do think though is that racism is so woven in the fabric of this country that it is very difficult to separate it, and it will be very difficult to separate it at all. And so when when we tell our black boys and black girls to pull up your pants, don't listen to this kind of music, put on this certain type of sweater, all that don't matter. It never did. So y'all would got shot anyway. We were slaves long before Love and Hip Hop came on. So regardless of what it is that you feel like what image you're putting out in the media or in black media, it don't matter. So to that being said, also this cop was of Hispanic descent or something like that. I see the box. When you check the box, and I check black, you could check white, and then you could also check white of non-Hispanic descent. Yep. So he was probably checking the white box, or the other box or whatever. But he was passing for white.
He was.
This was a racial thing. Yeah. But again, even if somebody doesn't say race, that they are racist, racism is so woven in the fabric of this country, which is why these cops are getting off routinely. Irregardless of what state they're in or which governor they have, they're getting off routinely.
They're getting off because of the law. Which clear.
Is a part of the fabric that is woven into this country. That is the racism.
That's the whole point.
Exactly.
The laws,
so that's
the laws
why
are
they're getting off.
You need to put
so
it
in
on.
addition, well, no, I
Don't
said
blame
that,
it on blue.
and I said it, and you caught it. So I said it well enough for you to
blue
understand.
Is the one that,
but everybody is articulate and understanding that
well,
I
you
am
said
also.
it though. You said
they
it. You backed
administer
it
the
up.
law though.
But what is?
I got it.
Okay. That's what we're saying.
Let me get a comment in. Our sister Bryna is checking in. She says, "Truth to power. They're killing without cause and getting away with it. No explanations will suffice after what we have seen on videos time and time again." As far as, and I agree. By the way, Bryna, I agree with that. Everybody's right here. Everybody who just spoke is right. Joe is right about it. Them getting off because of the law. Ash is right because of the racism. The reality is the laws are designed for them to do what they're doing. That's why the laws are written this way. And so when you have people who know better, that's where the lobby should be. The lobby shouldn't be to be marching in the street trying to, show that you got power. And I'm not speaking of grassroots marches. I'm talking about the big March on Washington stuff, because I've been a part of those. And I've also, I've been doing this my entire life since I was a teenager. And the reality is I've seen very little change in my own lifetime. And if you speak to certain people of a certain age, they'll tell you that there hasn't been any change in their lifetime as far as positive.
Some would argue any civil rights victory.
Some would argue that we're going backwards.
Yeah.
Some would argue that we're going backwards. You've got this backlash of anger that people are seeing because you got these uppity Negroes that now have some prominence and an opinion and now need to be put in their places.
But help me understand something. You said, and I agree with the moving backwards portion, but we put our local voice in power, and they have not changed it for us, which means if you didn't go vote and do certain things, you are at fault for anything that happens, and you need to hold yourself accountable, or you need to step up and do something. If you voted for somebody who you didn't do your research on, you just walked up to the polls to say, "Oh, I voted," and you just checked the box just because you said "eeny, meeny, miny, moe," pick C, then you're wrong. But then you have the folks who are putting people in there, and we all know politicians lie
all the time.
But you know what? You just spoke on some realness, big bro. Because the reality is, if you look at most national elections for president, you'll find that somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60% of the people who are eligible to vote actually show up to vote, and it steadily drops as you get to the locals. Give you an example. Last week here in Virginia, we had a primary for the governor's race that's coming up this fall. When I walked into the polling place at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, whatever time it was, I was numbered like 350. So you mean to tell me in my entire polling place, 350 people voted from 7 o'clock in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon? The apathy is the apathy is real.
Yeah. But did you ask how many actual voters are in your precinct? Do you know that?
I don't.
Just thinking that.
I don't know that.
Okay.
The reason why I'm saying that, and the reason why I'm asking the question is because I am a chief of my precinct. So it is my responsibility as a voter to know how many voters are in my precinct. As a voter, speaking directly to you, Marcus, it's your responsibility to know how many prospective voters are in your precinct. So that way you know how the vote is going to, sway one way or the other.
I'll tell you this much. Here's my response to that. When I voted in the presidential elections, because I voted in that place for the last 3 presidential elections, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm already in the 400s.
Right.
Each time.
Right.
So that's my point of reference, and being saddened by having less than that at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Now, keep in mind, you have a lot of voters out there that are totally disgruntled by the current state of affairs that are going on and the administration that we have.
Yep.
Okay.
Continues to.
You also have those voters out there that are upset because now Virginia is one of those states that have gone strictly paper. Okay. They're confused by what they call which we just had, the dual primary. Why are you asking me whether or not I'm going to vote in the Democratic primary or the Republican primary?
I had an issue with that.
Yeah.
So people don't want to say specifically which party
I had an
they
issue
want
with
to
that.
vote for. So, and unfortunately, no, you cannot vote for both.
You can't. Yeah.
Okay.
I asked for both sheets of paper because I didn't want you to know.
Right, but they cannot give you both sheets of paper.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to choose one or the other. I mean, it has what is going on with the current administration. Now you're seeing a switch of people now going to the Democratic side versus the Republican side. I know in my precinct, the Republican side did not show up at all, and or if they did, they voted Democratically.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean,
correct. A lot of people looking for balance.
I guess ultimately the whole point about bringing in the whole voting thing is we can't get the people in the places to do the things that would be our interest unless we show up in blocks.
Correct.
And actually support them. And so we can talk about how many people are in the precinct and all of that, and that's accurate and it's valid. But the reality is we have so much apathy, not just in our community, but just as voters. When you look at 2010, you have so many people who are upset about how President Obama's presidency turned out, but as big as they turned out, or we turned out in 2008, which is how small it was in 2010, which is the beginning of the course that we're on now, 7 years later. That is the beginning of how the Republicans took over the House and the Senate. Ash, jump in here. You've been wanting to get in for a minute.
I have my main point I wanted to complete, but I got a question for you now.
Okay.
With how people vote. Okay, and then those votes are given to the bigger vote or something like that?
So what happens is you go from where we just had the dual primary into the November primary, I should say November election.
No, but I'm saying in your precinct of 300 people, or how many ever in your precinct, you said no Republicans show now, only Democrats show now. I'm saying, how do you know?
Because basically what you can do is
just by the paper.
What happens is, based on the number of voters you have in your precinct, is based on the number of ballots that you get. Okay? So what they will do is, because it's a dual primary, both Republican and Democratic, and depending on how many items are listed on the particular ballot. So say, for example, if I have 800 voters in my precinct, I'm going to get somewhere between 16 to 1,700 ballots. So you get double.
So on it like that.
And what they do is, because it's paper, they allow a lot for the mistakes, the spoiled ballots. So you can walk up and you can spoil a ballot, you as a voter yourself, however many times it takes you to get it right. So think about how much paper is thrown in the trash.
Wow.
Right. So at the end of the night, what happens is, because they're all scanned into the scanner, that scanner is counting the number of votes.
That's what I wanted to know. Okay, so that's how you can figure if they came in Republican, they voted Democratic, because you see the results from the outside of the
From
scan.
the outside, right.
Okay.
The only thing that we don't know is if you were initially a Republican and voted Democratically. We don't know that.
Well, let me ask you another question, because the point that she made was, when I walked up, and pretty much I'm sure everybody did, when I walked up, they asked me,
They ask you,
which ballot do you want?
Right.
And I wasn't prepared for that
Republican
question. I was
or
like,
Democratic?
Right.
And you know what I told them? Like I said, I want them both because it's none of your business.
Right. But they're not asking They're never going to know who you're voting for. They just want to know what party you want, which ballot you want.
But it doesn't matter. Okay. Back in the day, it was all on. Y'all remember how it is? Yeah. It's all on the blocks, on the computers.
Right.
I don't care. But see, for me, that's a conspiracy in and of itself. I don't need you to know who I'm going to vote for.
The win vote was a conspiracy because of the fact that it could be manipulated and hacked. That's why Virginia chose to no longer use the win vote because you had an electoral official going in and turning the machines on and off.
I'm the flip side of that one though, because while I was absolutely taken aback by the question, I didn't mind being asked.
Yeah.
Right. Because I didn't, your vote is private and everybody has the right to the privacy with regards to the vote. Mm-hmm. But I'm one of those folks that I don't mind sharing it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So,
see, at the end of the day, we still don't know which candidate you voted for. We just want to know what party we needed to give you a ballot for.
I understand both sides.
Now, in November, guess what? They're going to ask you the same question because of the fact that information is not kept in the computer that you voted democratically or that you wanted.
And plus it's random because it only shows that you walked in the door.
Right.
I don't know that they took a record when I walked in which one of those two ballots that I took. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't.
The only thing they do is
separate people
on that poll book. If you wanted a Democratic ballot, you click the box because they gave you an ATV, which is a little slip of paper.
Yep.
That you had to take over to the ballot official for them to give you the correct ballot. That's all that was.
Right. And you know how Step on Marcus J live from the Den Legacy Internet Radio. Hey, Ash, take the last word. We're going to move on to some other stuff.
Okay, yes. I was trying to say.
Okay, I got you.
Back to Fidel Castro who died, and I'm so sorry that he died. I feel all your sentiments of what you had.
Wait.
You
said Fidel Castro?
But he did die.
Let me go ahead and Let me go ahead and say murder Fidel. I'm going to step out here. I'm going to do a church tip out and leave right now. Because that was horrific. Okay, I'm going to just do the church tip out right now. I will not return. I will not return after these messages.
We wouldn't be your family if we didn't make fun of you.
That's the moment when you was loud and wrong.
Yeah.
I doubt myself. Like, wait,
sorry about that.
But you know what was funny? You know what was funny? Everybody in the room caught it, and we all had to look like, huh? But you baby said, nah. We can't. I was like, roll, man.
And it wasn't even gonna be like a let me flame you real quick. It was gonna be like a hold on.
Yeah, I saw that. That was that nice let down. Like, hold on, baby. Like the old people do in the church. Like,
let me take you over there. So what you got? What you got on Castille?
What I was going to say, because it's not a funny topic, but thank y'all for making me laugh. But what you were saying, all the sentiments that you had of sadness and everything that you had, I shared as well. But the one thing that I did get from this that I thought was positive was when his mother put that video on Facebook saying F the police. And I know that might be a controversial thing, but I'm just so sick of black people being gunned down and then the families of those black people saying, we forgive you.
Oh,
it's okay.
Yes.
God
I'm so tired.
This past weekend I was in South Carolina and I went right to Emmanuel AME Church where the 9 were shot by Dylan Roof.
Yeah.
And everybody in that church, we forgive Dylan, it's okay. I feel like every time us as a people say we forgive those who lynch us and shoot us, we give them license and permission to do it again. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. It's the fabric. And I'm in the culture of this country. And I know that those people are being trained and paid and threatened to say those words, to say, I apologize. And I always knew that. But when his mother came out and said, I want to say it, but I don't.
F the police.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was so thankful. Like yes.
Somebody finally said.
And then she said, act on your emotions, and I hope that man died tonight. I cried again.
That was a time to kill. I mean,
tears of joy.
Yes, I
really
shot
did.
them boys, and I hope they burns in hell. I am so with you on that. But you know what, y'all Christians? Y'all kill me.
That's what I was sitting there thinking the same thing.
Y'all kill me with that turn the other goddamn cheek.
Listen.
What that is saying, I am subservient to you.
Right.
I allow and give you a license to shoot me down.
It's okay because the Lord is going to take me away, Jesus.
Yes. And I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of that.
It's so frustrating. It is so frustrating, and I can't stand it because it's that. Oh, we gonna be.
But
all
that
right,
video was
y'all.
shared. I'm so glad it was
We
shared,
gonna be okay.
and I hope that it helps to turn a tide.
Yeah.
But you know what it is, though?
really do.
It's one of those things, and our brother Ivan, it's ironic. I didn't read his comments. Been sitting here for a minute, but he said times has changed. Best we can do is pray and continue to pray. And hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. We're not going to talk over each other. Hold tight. While I understand that some folks feel that way, I'm with Ash in the sense that I'm about tired of praying for folks that just killed my brother and my sister. Like, I'm just not interested in doing that anymore. I'm not interested in the forgiveness aspect of it. Now, having been someone who left the Christian faith, for 20 years or close to it, I'm not governed by that, and I go about that how I feel about it in that moment. And how I felt in this moment was rage.
Yeah.
I'm smart enough to know that revenge is not something that's, productive, in the primal sense. But, you got to be smart and strategic. As far as this prayer thing, you can pray until you faint, but if you don't get up and try to do something, God is not going to put it in your lap. And there's no need of running and saying, I'm not going to get in a mess, because if you were born in America with a black face, you was born in a mess. That's Fannie Lou Hamer.
Basically.
That's where that quote came from, and it's real.
And you know what? As somebody who is currently still, I got 1 foot in Christianity and 1 foot out.
You can't be a little bit pregnant now. You can't be a little bit pregnant.
No, I'm not talking. I'm saying like no.
You're still dealing with the transition.
Exactly.
You're transitioning
out of it.
I've
Yes,
been
I
there.
am.
That is a transition.
I am
I've
a
been through
recovering
it.
Christian.
I've been through it.
I am a recovering. Like I was raised Baptist. So it's been since I was 5 years old. It's been 24 years. So yeah, I am trying to. What I'm gonna do?
You hopscotching on that?
Basically, because that's all I've known. But after a while, it stops making sense. The same Christians that would say, "Oh, we're just gonna pray about it," forget all about how faith without works is dead. We forget all about that. It pisses me off how we could just sit around and just it's okay. No, the same people that was marching with me, I ain't seen that pastor, I ain't seen that parishioner, I ain't seen nobody.
But don't you supposed to turn the other cheek? Isn't that what? Wait now.
Wow.
Isn't that what Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said?
Well,
you got to turn the other cheek.
But
you know what Jesus also said. No, but he also said 7 times 7 is 7.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna tell you something.
That's infinite. We
can do it. But how many times have we been? No, listen to where I'm trying to go. If we do as what Jesus said, which is 7 times 7
it's
7.
70 times 7.
Okay, guess what? Well, go ahead on and say it. 70 times 7. Add it up. That means I'm sure that black people have been hit up and shot up enough to
I got you,
more
but that's a parable.
that.
That's a parable for
70
everyone.
times 7. We didn't pass 490.
Yeah, but that's
Okay, is that what it
if you
is? I
have
don't
the
do
faith
math.
the size of a grain of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain.
I mean, but
I think we got enough of these mustard seeds.
It's all good and great for those Christians
saying.
to say and feel how they feel. If it gives them comfort, helps them sleep at night, great. Just leave me alone with it. Just don't bother me. Just don't bother me. Just don't bother with me with it and walk around like you right, because your Jesus is 2,000. The world is 2 million. Like leave me alone with it.
The thing that really bothered me.
You know what I'm saying?
It's really annoying.
That way.
It's really annoying.
Yeah, I mean,
like the thing that really bothered me on November 9th when I was upset. I had a bunch of people that I knew. I had a lot of friends. I still have a lot of friends that are LGBTQ that were worried. I had a friend that was contemplating suicide. I was worried about a lot of my friends and family out here. And you ain't got to worry about nothing because Jesus is my president. He not. Jesus is not anybody's president. What are you talking about? And it was pissing me off so much that I went to church the day before, the day of, and just sat in there with my headphones on. And it was pissing me off because we okay to be like, we got it. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Jesus does not care about black people.
Oh,
You gonna turn
Philando Castille. I'm
again,
saying his name, Philando Castille. Jesus does not care about black people.
But you know the crazy part about it is though,
Kanye the whole
it's hard. It's hard because you have so many people who feel so strongly about their religions. And, Muslim people feel strongly about their religion. Jewish people feel strongly about their religion. The nation of gods and earth, the Israelites, like everybody feels strongly about their religion. You got all of these religions, but yours is the one that's right. Mine is wrong. Everybody else's is wrong. Yours is right. You know, so I don't want to turn this discussion into a discussion on religion and on voting, because we're getting way, way off the topic that I wanted to be talking about here. But just to kind of put a bow on this before I bring one more thing in before we go to our first break of the night, is at the end of the day, there is a mission by certain powers that be in this country to eliminate certain people in this country. And I don't think that your perspective should color what to many of us is fact, because you can see it clear as day, or maybe you can't. But for those of us who see it clear as day, don't be looking at us like we the crazy ones, because we the ones every day have to go home and we got to comfort our mothers and our sisters and everybody else when these boys are dying. And they're not only dying at the hands of law enforcement, which is a problem, but they're dying at the hands of us. Yeah. And I get sick and tired of always seeing the damn T-shirt. I don't want to freaking see the T-shirt no more, because we black people, the punks that we are, just as a general nature, are afraid of white people and are afraid of law enforcement. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. It is, and you can make the face all you want, tough guy, because that doesn't apply. It doesn't apply specifically.
Whoa, no, I won't make a face on that one.
Oh, okay, because you gave me the face like.
No, I was giving the face because it's something else that you said that I need to comment on. Because the first thing I'm gonna sit there and say is, you know what? Even though everybody who's blue is doing certain things, you made the point that we killing ourselves, and ain't nobody marching a damn way.
No,
when we killing us, we not marching from the young lady who got killed just the other day in a crowd of people, black.
Yeah.
Because she ran her mouth because she was from the wrong side
she
of town.
She was on Facebook running her mouth, talking about how she was going to knock somebody out, and she got there and got shot. And got killed. I mean, and so my apologies for snapping at you, but the thing is, but the point, the final point that I wanted to make is, we don't have marches for that girl.
Exactly.
We'll have the march, or we'll get up in arms and expect to get the liberal white folk to be on our side when the police is doing it. Or if it's like the guy in Mississippi who was beheaded, and nobody nationally wants to talk about how they found a black man's head on a porch and his body down the street.
Yeah.
Nationally, you don't know about that. You don't know about that unless you go looking for that kind of stuff.
Like, yeah.
Yo, clean off.
The head. He was decapitated, and his head was left on his porch, and his body was down the street. Now, we can go march for that, right?
Oh, no.
We can go march for that, because the assumption is, because the black folk ain't doing that to other black folk. We'll shoot you, but we're not going to behead you.
Asians.
So you got to figure that was either the Klan, that was a Klan or something like that. So we'll go march for that, right? We'll go march for Philando Castille, right? But what we won't do is we ain't going to march in Chicago, where the death toll there is unreal, or Baltimore, you know what I mean, or Richmond, or Jersey City.
Wait.
You know what I'm saying?
Wait, yeah, that.
Jump in.
Yeah, that's not entirely true.
Let's talk about it.
There have been marches in Chicago, in Jersey, in Baltimore.
Not in Richmond.
There have been marches in Richmond.
I just ain't heard about it.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. We haven't heard about it, because I drove past one the other day about one of the girls that was killed.
Now, are we talking about...
Not about police violence. About...
neighborhood street.
Yeah, black on black, even though that don't exist. Violence.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I hate that phrase.
I walked past it. I was with it. The thing is that people don't talk about it.
We don't get news coverage.
We don't get news coverage either.
We don't get...
And in Chicago, they have the Mothers Against Gun Violence. They have so many different groups of people, and churches also, that are rallying, that are raising money, that are building rec centers, that are marching,
community things,
all the time.
Yeah.
Black people are trying to stop what's going on in Chicago and in Baltimore. And when I was working in Baltimore, I saw what they were trying to do and trying to change. Yeah. And then also, I have 3 friends on the Baltimore police force. And even they told me that those who are in the city are actively trying to stop the violence.
Yeah.
You know? But what can you do when you don't really know what to do. Because
Well,
I'm going to
then
be
whose fault
honest,
is that?
marching ain't going to stop nothing. I'm sorry. I really don't think that walking down
Well,
the
that's
street
ultimately-
holding a sign is going to do anything.
Marcus J.
Well,
said
that's-
I just don't think it is.
that's actually what my point is.
But the thing is, but then what do you do? Because you march when you don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
But that's ultimately what my point is about how I don't see it. You know, and if you guys say that it's there, then I respect that your opinion is valid. I respect it if you guys see it. But my position on that is, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? Because we hear us when somebody white does something to us, and we hear us when somebody blue does something to us. But when we do something to us, and it's such a large number compared to those other doing something to us, that we have this apathy about us where, you know what, such and such got it, man, we cry, we have the vigil, we get the T-shirt, we let off the doves and the balloons, and then the next thing you know, we back at it again. You know, and that to me is the hard part. That's the part that's difficult for me to absorb, because I don't see the vigor in us when we do it to us that I see in us when it's done to us from outside.
I can give you that.
That's my whole point.
Okay, I can give you that. I will say that there are people that are actively in Richmond that I know of personally, that are creating programs, that are trying to create legislation, that are doing all these things, that are trying to make sure that our children are off of the streets for the summer, or have something to do day in and day out. I created my own program. I have friends that have created programs. I have people that are working within the city, within the county, East End especially, because East End and South Side are hot right now, especially
Yes,
North
Lord
Side too.
Jesus. Yes,
So
Lord.
there are people. I have a friend right now that's working within a community center that was just created in North Side to get these kids off the streets. That it's kid led. So now that adults aren't walking in and go, let me tell y'all kids what y'all need to do. These kids are coming in and say, you know what, we want a program for STEM. We want a program so I can create a book. We want a program so I can create an app. Like, they're coming in and doing those things. We as a collective just don't know about it. And that's the messed up thing. I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying that's right. That's wrong. That a lot of people don't know. I didn't know about this program until 2 weeks ago, but people have been working on it on the low. But it's there. It's definitely there. There are one of my favorite programs. One of my favorite channels is Viceland. Viceland has a lot of things, but they go into Baltimore. They go into the inner city of D.C. They go into all these other places where there's one they have coming out right now in July called Last Chance High. I want to say it's in Baltimore or Jersey, one of those joints, where they are talking to teen boys that are constantly fighting. They're constantly getting into things, doing all these things. And a lot of the reasons why that they discovered that a lot of the kids are having the issues that they're having because they're having undiagnosed mental health crises or mental health issues. So they're trying to reach these boys in however way they can be reached. Some of them step, some of them do music, some of them do basketball, some of them do like typical, a lot of different things. So these programs do exist. It's just a lot of the times they go under the radar. Some of them choose to stay under the radar. And then some of them can't get the funding, can't get the workers, can't get people to continue doing it. I'm the program that I have personally. The girls in D.C. want to do it, but so many people have run through D.C. and taken the funding money that they don't trust anybody that's coming in anymore. And these are higher up people. This is not just us. So there are programs, there are things, there are people that are doing legislation, all these different things that exist. It just goes under the radar.
You know what? It's crazy. You made that point, Q. My bad. But there are a lot of things going on.
This tonight.
My bad. It's a lot of things that are going on.
Inside joke.
There's a lot of things that you made statements about, and I still go back that we put these people in offices who have the authority and the power to work for us, and they're not, and we're not holding people accountable for those things. When you sit there and make those statements about what's going on, I mean, I know for a fact right now, coming up July the 9th, there is a alternative school for all boys like they got up in D.C. I mean, up in New York, where it's an all boys school. I went to an alternative school. I went to a military school, a fully public military academy, and it helped mold me. It's a lot of stuff out there, but you know what? We are not partnering. We would rather point our fingers at
Right.
folks who are not doing what stuff. Or
Right.
you want to say that blue is not doing that? Because let me clarify. All blue ain't bad.
Oh yeah.
All blue
Yeah.
is not bad. And when I say blue, folks, if you don't understand what I
Yeah.
mean, all police officers, all people who work in law enforcement are not bad. Just like we got bad folks in the hood, we got bad folks on the inside in the police department.
Yep.
But you know what? We have to still stay vigilant to the fact that if we want to make a change, Big Bro Joe got to be out there running his mouth and being. I can talk a lot of stuff about anything else, but I need to be out there better in the community doing what I'm saying. And
Right.
that's the one thing I love about being here. We do go out. We
Yeah.
do see people, but we got to do a lot more.
We definitely need to do a lot more. And we have a lot of satellites inside of Legacy Internet Radio, people who are part of the organization that have organizations that are doing things. We have business owners. We got 3 of them in the room right now, 4 of them in the room right now. You know what I mean? That actually have businesses or have had businesses. And so it's a great thing. And just to piggyback on your point, Joe, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made the point about all blue ain't bad, because the reality is, if it was some stuff that was to go down in this room right now, the first thing one of us would do is call the cops, because we know. You know what I mean? Intellectually, you know. But it's one of those jobs that there is a very, very high level of, I don't want to say perfection because nobody's perfect, but there's a high level that needs to be had. And if you slip onto the wrong side, the unfortunate reality is there's going to be something to pay. You're going to have to pay for that. And the fact that you say, I fear for my life, when there was a person that's unarmed, or there's a person who you took down with you and your other police officers, that's not the time to fear for your life. That's not the time to pull that card. And those are the ones that I have issues with. Just like anybody, we talk about this stop snitching in the hood. The police are real quick to tell you, to tell the hood to stop saying stop snitching, but we all know about the thin blue line. And they ain't trying to tell on each other either.
Right.
So if it's good for the hood, then it's got to be good for the blue. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. We are going to take our first break of the night, y'all, and Facebook Live. We appreciate y'all rocking with us. Went through the whole show with y'all, taking care of business with us, and making sure that y'all held us down while we worked through those technical difficulties in the first segment. Looks like we've worked through them, so we will continue on with the show as we do it online as well as here on Facebook Live. So we will shut down the first little video that we got going on here for Facebook Live. We're going to bring it back up. We're going to take our first break of the night. When we come back, we got a Wise segment with our sister S.Y. Butler. Looking forward to it. It's been a while since we had one. I'm Marcus J. What up, Tony? We see you in there. Miss Tony, she's saying peace to the crew.
What's up, Tony?
I'm Marcus J. They are the crew. You are you. We'll be back in a few.
Is my mic on? Oh, okay. Legacy Internet Radio. It's your girl, the First Lady, comedianess, Lissa P. Ow, ow! Make sure you're tuned in to the #1 internet radio station around, Legacy Internet Radio. Be sure to check out our website at www.legacyinternetradio.com, or you can download the free TuneIn app. Go to the search, type in Legacy Internet Radio, and there you'll have us. Legacy Internet Radio, where independence is the key to building your legacy. Ow, ow! We gon'